All right, let's get right into it. What we're looking at today is, well, it's not your typical corporate sustainability report. Not even close. We're talking about a really radical business move, this massive experiment that asks a huge question. What if a company's main goal wasn't profit, but, protecting the entire planet? And this is the line that kicked the whole thing off. So simple, but so powerful, right? It's from Patagonia's founder, Yvonne Chouinard. I mean, think about it. That one statement completely rewired the DNA of his billion-dollar company. But what does that even mean? How can the Earth be a shareholder? Well, it meant this. Back in 2022, instead of selling the company or, taking it public, the Chouinard family just gave it away. Literally, every single share. So the big question we're going to unpack here is, what happened next? What happened after they signed that dotted line? Okay, so to really get why they did something so drastic, we first have to understand the problem they were trying to solve. You see, this wasn't just some feel-good PR stunt. Nope. It was a direct answer to what they see as a huge, fundamental crisis in the way we do business today. And the villain in this story? They have a name for it: extractive capitalism. The idea is pretty simple, really. It's a system where businesses just take from nature, from communities, all to max out short-term profits. And who cares about the long-term damage, right? They argue it's a model that's all about making a few people rich at the expense of, well, everyone and everything else. And just look at this. This picture says it all, doesn't it? It's not just some dramatic photo. It's what that whole philosophy looks like in the real world. A mountain, a whole landscape, just gone. Permanently scarred, all for the stuff buried inside. It's the perfect and honestly heartbreaking example of taking way, way more than you could ever give back. So, when you're faced with something like that, Chouinard's take is crystal clear. It's not about giving up. It's about doing something. He doesn't see this as a lost cause. He sees it as a challenge. Yeah, the system might be fatal, as he puts it, but it's not unbeatable. And that first step he's talking about, oh yeah, it's a doozy. So here's the thinking. If the core problem is an ownership model that just demands more and more growth, no matter the cost, well, their solution was to totally reinvent who or maybe what owns the company. Now, this is the really critical part. The company wasn't sold. It wasn't given to another person or some giant corporation. Instead, they transferred it into this brand new, custom-built structure. Basically, a legal framework designed to do two things: lock in the company's values forever and funnel all its wealth into fighting for the planet. Okay, so how would they actually pull this off? It's pretty genius, really. They split control from profit. Think of it like this. First, you've got the Patagonia Purpose Trust. It owns just 2% of the stock, but, and this is key, it holds all the voting power. Its only job is to be the company's conscience, making sure Patagonia never, ever strays from its mission. Then you've got the second part, the Holdfast Collective. It owns the other 98% of the stock, but has zero voting power. Instead, it gets all the profits the company doesn't reinvest back into itself. And what does it do with that money? Its only job is to fund the fight for the environment. And believe me, this isn't just symbolic. We're talking real money. Since this whole thing started back in 2022, the Holdfast Collective has already gotten $180 million from Patagonia's profits. Just think about that. In any other company, that cash would have gone straight into shareholders' pockets. But here, it's going to fund stuff like buying up land to block new mines or supporting grassroots environmental groups on the front lines. Okay, so the structure's in place, the money's flowing, but how's the experiment actually going on the inside? Well, Patagonia decided to put out this brutally honest progress report. They had these super ambitious goals for 2025, and this is them basically giving themselves a report card for the world to see. And this quote, which is from their own report, pretty much says it all. They're telling you right up front that looking this closely at yourself is painful and that they've messed up. I mean, that kind of honesty it's just so rare, right? And you have to keep that in mind as we look at their results. All right, first up on the report card, their goal to be carbon neutral. And what did they do? They threw it out, scrapped it completely. Why? Well, they realized that just buying carbon offsets to cancel out their pollution was, in their own words, kind of a cop-out. It's more of an accounting trick than a real fix. So they ditched the easy goal for a way, way harder one, getting to true net zero by 2040. And that means actually cleaning up their entire supply chain, step by painful step. Okay, next up, a big win. Their goal was to use 100% preferred materials. We're talking stuff like organic cotton, recycled synthetics, things that have a much smaller environmental footprint. And how are they doing? They're at 84%. You guys, for a company this big, getting to that number is a massive achievement. It means totally transforming a gigantic global supply chain. And then there's this one, which is just a huge success story. Getting rid of PFAS, those awful forever chemicals from all their gear. And guess what? They did it. They're done. But what's truly mind-blowing here is that this wasn't some quick fix because they were getting bad press. No, this was the end result of almost 20 years of super expensive, dedicated research. 20 years.
All right, now for a miss, and they don't pull any punches on this one. Their own word for it was, and I quote, yikes. The goal was super ambitious. Make half of their synthetics from things like old fishing nets and fabric scraps, not just easy-to-recycle plastic bottles. The result? They've only hit 6%. Yeah, turns out that taking a bunch of messy, mixed-up waste and turning it into high-performance fabric at a massive scale is really, really hard, so a huge setback for them.
And that brings us to maybe one of the toughest challenges of all, making sure every single worker in their supply chain earns a living wage. And as you can see from the chart, they're not there yet, not by a long shot. About 39% of their factories are paying a full living wage, which is great, but that still leaves a huge number of people who aren't. It's a very stark visual reminder of just how big the gap is between their ideals and the reality on the ground.
Okay, so let's zoom out. We've seen the problem, we've seen their crazy solution, and we've seen the very mixed report card. So, what does it all add up to? Is this whole Patagonia experiment just a weird one-off thing? Or could this actually be a new blueprint for how to do business? Well, if you ask co-founder Melinda Chouinard, their ambition is way, way bigger than just Patagonia. The goal now is to use their company as living proof that there's another way to do things. They want to challenge the very foundation of how we think about corporations and capitalism.
Which really brings us back to the biggest question of all, doesn't it? I mean, for 50 years, they've proved you can be a responsible company and still be incredibly successful. But can this next experiment, literally giving the whole thing away, can that actually spark a change across the entire system?
When you get right down to it, Patagonia has completely redefined what value means. They've traded stock prices for environmental progress. And that leaves all of us with one last really big question to chew on. If Earth is now our only shareholder, what's the real dividend we're all hoping for?